Hello, everyone, and welcome to Saber the Cenotaph, Part 33, aka the Post-Mortem. I am your host for this evening, Austin Ramsey. I was also the GM for the Cenotaph, and I am also the creator of Saber. My pronouns are he, him. You can find me on Twitter at notanin, and you can find the rules for Saber at austin-ramsey.itch.io/beamsaber. You can also, of course, through that find all of my other game design work. This evening, I am joined by Sasha.
Hi, I'm Sasha. I'm on Twitter at Sasha_Renell, and my game dev stuff is at tcabbage. My pronouns are NNs, and I played C. Dredge Bellevue, the technician, on the Cenotaph.
Thank you very much. Also with us for this campaign is Jess.
Hi, I'm Jess. You guys can follow me on, my pronouns are she, her, and you guys can follow me on Twitch and Twitter at Quasinim.
Thank you. With us, of course, is also Ray.
Hi, I'm Ray. I use they them pronouns. You can find me on Twitter at RayRayTheGayGay, or on itch at rayinthefog.itch.io. I have played Tower Reach, the dumbass infiltrator.
That's unkind to Tower.
They're my
Hey, at least
PC. I'm
you played,
allowed.
So
Yeah.
Fair.
there's competition, is what I'm saying.
And last but never least, Takuma.
Hi, I'm Takuma. My pronouns are they and she. My Twitter is at Takuma_Okada_, and I have played Keiko Pitchfork Tuesday, the soldier.
Thank you. Also joining us later on, once she is available, will be Cassandra, who played Hero Demon Gray. And he was our officer for the first season of the Cenotaph. Yeah, so it has been literally a year of real time that we did this campaign over.
Woo! Fucking wild.
Yeah, maybe easily one of my longest campaigns that I've ever GM'd. Possibly the longest. Almost certainly the longest that actually concluded. You know, sometimes you play those D&D style games, or in my case Fantasycraft, and it just keeps going because you don't know when to end it. But at any rate, we're not here to talk about Fantasycraft. That's Friday. So, we are going to be taking any questions in the chat and answering them on air. Also, if you aren't comfortable asking them in chat, you feel free to email them to beamsaberrpg@gmail.com. I've got that open in a tab to check there. Jeez. Does anyone have any, opening thoughts they have about the campaign? Your characters? Or... Okay, Jess?
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And could you elaborate on that valid point?
Okay, so I think the big thing that I kind of got out of this is I didn't really know what to expect coming in, especially coming in late to this. Blades in the Dark is kind of crunchy. There's this whole mech genre thing, and what I was expecting was something I think a little bit more mechanical and a little bit more, dungeon crawly, for lack of a better word, and just the fucking character drama. There was so much good fucking drama, and I'm all here for that. Because one thing, and especially looking at Riza, I constructed her, I think, kind of mechanically. I'm like, okay, what are we missing? You guys are all really non-military, so I'm gonna make a bit like, to use a sprawl term, I'm going to make a killer. You know, I'm going to make someone who mechanically fits in. And all the interpersonal drama and stuff really was very emergent and, like, honestly, profoundly more important than anything that I actually designed or put into motion deliberately.
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
that's... Oh, go ahead, Sasha.
Oh, there were several points where I was trying to like actually have like a strategic plan for what should unfold, and those never ever panned out. Like Beam Saber doesn't actually want the good idea. Beam Saber wants the most dramatic idea. And yeah.
Thank you. I think Jess, you've hit on a good place to start. Is what was everyone's, I guess, expectations both as a player and like expectations for your characters at the start of the campaign? Obviously, Jess, your experience was a bit more recent than everyone else's, but I'm still curious as to what each of you were thinking going in.
You say that, Austin, but it feels like a lifetime ago.
Well, it was at least Reese's.
Sorry.
No, go right ahead, Ray.
I mean, I think for me it was weird going in because I had like essentially no experience with mecha fiction, like at all going in.
Same.
Like I had sort of absorbed some of it through cultural osmosis, and I had I think I had played a little bit of Into the Breach, but I really had like nothing going in. So I was it was really interesting both going in and just sort of absorbing what I think are a lot of like genre tropes through the gameplay, but also like getting it from the other players who are, and you, Austin, who are like all, you know, into that shit. And I just like I had no expectations going in apart from big robot.
And you went with the smallest one.
Yeah. I mean, you know, gotta subvert the genre. That's fine now.
So,
yeah,
what kind of tropes do you think that you like picked up on that you weren't previously aware of?
Just like it's a lot of like. I mean, I'm gay, so this is like established, but like found family tropes a lot of the time. Like, I think, and I'm not sure how much of it sort of is just the way tabletop games work. But like, I don't know. I don't have anything specific off the top of my head. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting.
Oh, that's fair. You're absolutely right about the found family trope in Mecha Works. So I was just wondering if you had anything particular in mind that you learned.
I mean, a lot of it was just like aesthetic. Like a lot of it was figuring out how to visualize a lot of the stuff that was going on. Was I think the biggest change as we've been playing.
Okay. Sasha, what were your expectations as a player coming into this?
I don't know. Like Ray, I had like no real experience with mecha fiction, except, I mean, if you count Starship Troopers, but boy, that's an edge case.
Did you ever watch Starship Troopers Roughnecks?
I did, yes.
Hell yeah, Roughnecks!
God, I fucking love that show.
But expectations for it. Well, one of my assignments when I was actually like accepted onto the stream was go watch 08 Demon's team. And I did eventually do that, and then I watched the first Gundam after that. And one of the things that, like, in play felt really true to form in that sort of like tropey way was like coming back to base after a fight and then immediately having to go out again with like 2 minutes of sleep.
And y'all never even rolled scramble.
Exactly. But being at war with the raccoons was like, oh, fucking can't do any goddamn thing. Yeah. So that was a good one. There was like 2.5 seconds where I was like, I'm gonna try and play like an earnestly good character, and then I actually got into the play and I'm like, I'm gonna do the worst shit possible. Plans and battlefields, you know.
Yep. Any other thoughts as a player that you had coming in?
Well, I was definitely excited to push the limits on what I could make and still call a mech.
Yep.
And still like fit within the parameters of the assignment, as it were.
The grossest mech.
The grossest possible mech.
Just a yucky boy.
So I'm really excited that I got to do that because I love the magpie a great deal.
Me too. As a bit of honesty, I had some strong reservations about allowing you to use the magpie. But
Really?
yes, I had the thought of asking you to come up with something else because it was so weird. And you know, the first session of the Cenotaph was my first session GMing Beam Saber. So you know,
But you're not a coward.
yes, there we go. I was like, you know what? We're here to playtest this shit. Let's fucking push it to the limit. You
Edge
know?
cases, baby.
Yeah, and now the magpie is a canon AV in the lore. It's
yeah.
one of the example AVs. So yeah.
I actually had a question for Sasha, if that's okay.
Absolutely. If anyone has any questions for each other, just, you know, like, find a good place.
Like, you mentioned that Dredge was originally intended to be like this sort of morally sound character. What was the turning point on that?
Funny when you say that. Sorry. I interrupted you. I beg your pardon.
Do you remember like what the exact turning point on that was?
Yeah. It was when it's the very, very first mission. When Dredge goes up to the fucking captain and just reaches in a hand on this completely immobile, helpless Avi and just intentionally kills the pilot directly. That was that turning point. Yeah.
Yeah.
There it is.
There it go.
Yeah.
Yep. Before we go to Takuma, because I want to get her thoughts last, since she has at this point more Beam Saber experience than I do. Jess, do you have any other thoughts about your expectations as a player coming into the campaign?
Okay, well, this is going to be not so much game stuff, so much as personal stuff here, but I really did not expect this to be such a home, like, especially because, like, we had a miscommunication where an email just didn't go through me, I didn't see it at all, and I was basically cut from consideration for a little bit. I was like, oh, you know, I like playing RPGs and this is fun, whatever, but, you know, missed opportunity. And so I think there was a little bit of tension just to start with. And then I got in, it's like, oh, cool, I get a second chance, we have this fun time, and then I came out. And y'all, the space is queer as fucking hell. And it's really been a home for me, and it's really been actually very important to me, and, like, I consider you all to be good friends, and that's not something I expected. I expected, like, because this is something that I want to do, like, part of my personal plans for my brand growth and all that crap about my content creation and stuff is, like, you know, I wanted to do tabletop streams. It's something that I've always, like, I've wanted to do since like the original Adventure Zone arc and stuff, and I haven't gotten to it yet. But like I figured like this is practice for that. I'll come onto someone else's stream, I'll have a good time, I'll learn some tips of the trade, and like that doesn't fucking matter to me anymore. Like it's still something I want to do eventually, but like this place is family, and I know maybe it wasn't for Riza, but it is for me.
Aw. Yeah. Y'all are good.
True.
And Takuma, what were your expectations as a player coming into the Cenotaph?
God, a year ago. Well, like, cause I'd run it so much by that point. I started in like January of last year, I think, like mid or late January.
Yeah,
So I've been running
you
it for,
you were like the second Beam Saber GM that I knew of, anyways.
Yeah, cause it was Sam and Alderman and me. And I ran it for 4 months at that point. And I hopped in and I was like, okay, the first couple months of this were rough because I'd never GM'd Blades in the Dark before. I'd never really GM'd other stuff before, except for like some. Did I just do Remembrance World in that time?
I remember you
Well, like,
I remember like back when you started, you'd said that it was your first time GMing, and I was like, wow, fucking brave to jump in GMing a game that's like in development.
Yeah.
Hey, it's a good impulse. I GM'd my first game ever of D&D, and that was a mess, but it was great.
I don't know if I could, in good conscience, recommend someone start with a Forged in the Dark game. I don't know if I would do that, but it was fine. And like after 4 months, I was like, okay, I think I get how this game works. And I mean, some of the kinks were worked out, too, in development. And I was like, okay, I know what I want to do. I mean, I know how to do the things I want to do in this game. And then like the soldier thing came through, and I was like, I want to like have this Johnny Raiden storyline type thing, because that's always been like something that I've really liked about mecha stuff and Gundam. And I think in the beginning it lined up pretty well with my expectations. And I mean, I think even at the end I like tried to stick to the Johnny Raiden stuff. I think what was like, I'm trying to think of like what most surprised me about all of this. I think think of myself as being like pretty like character narrative focused, but like that's as a GM, and then you put a character sheet with like harm and stuff in front of me, and my brain like clicks weird, and I'm like, I have to do these things like this. So I think I had this struggle of like playing mechanically smart while also playing like in a way that made narrative sense for most of the campaign. There were times like that, I think, although the beginning was like when it was most conflicting. But I mean, the finale was great because, you know,
Oh yeah,
fuck it.
got to let meat. You Terminator bitch.
I have a question. What was the point at which you like knew who your character was?
Oh, that was the building, right? Yeah, that was the building. The Burden safe house. I mean, even the first session, I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna pull this anti-armor weapon out. I'm gonna shoot this mech. I ran down this alleyway. I think from the first session I was like, yeah, this feels right for this character. But that was like the aspect of her being able to do the things that she's good at. And then the second the Burden Safe House was like, oh, she may be good at this thing, but this is not where she belongs.
Hmm. I actually have a question, I think, for everyone, and I can start if y'all need time to think about this, but because I listened to the character creation session, but that was months ago, and it kind of, but like, did you guys ever have like different ideas of what kind of what character you play, or different versions of the same character? Because for example, like I spent a long time coming up with like I actually basically never referenced what the name Scarecrow was supposed to mean, which was it was this idea of this specific tactic where she would like disguise herself as a downed mech. And I was actually considering the Ace playbook for a while. I wanted like her signature move to be like rising out of like from that like ambush position to like this big thing. I was actually considering like having a transforming neck or something, which like I feel like doesn't really work until you have the points to actually make it flexible and do something. But I was at the point, so like I was considering like this kind of like basically like this funnel web spider kind of character. And so like there was a lot of things. I think who Risa was, the whole like military sniper thing, like her character never really came until after I decided what the mechanics were going to be, like which playbook I was going to go. Because like she was kind of boilerplate. She's kind of like, oh, ex-military sniper, dead squad, ooh. But like trying to figure out what she was going to do first. Like I spent a long time thinking about that. It's also cool that I'm the only one who did that.
I had a while where I thought Tower was gonna be a much sadder character. like I think this is partially just I need more practice with the role-playing side of this. I need to stop my general like smiley bubbly kind of thing seeping into my characters.
It worked though. Like
yeah, and it ended up
like
working
Tower's
out.
ray of sunshine, in like this fucking bleak ass depressing world.
Like it ended up working out, but for a while there I had really intended them to be a lot more in their feelings. And I'm glad I didn't go that route. I don't think I could have done it well. I think it would have just come off as playing an edgy character. But like there was a while there where I was planning on having them be very sort of a little emo. I also had an alternate plan for the Mantis, where it was going to be this big like hulking thing, with just like anti-grav and camouflage suite. So it would just be this like giant hulking mech that just sort of floated like a foot off the ground. I don't know.
Oh, that's cool.
And it didn't really work with Tower's concept, which is why I ditched it, but I still want to use that Ovi at some point for something.
Well, for Dredge, the core conceit was always mortuary affairs, and that certainly sort of took a wayside over the course of the campaign, just because of the game that Beam Saber is, and I don't know that I necessarily regret that happening, but it's just a thing that happened, and also. Honestly, if I had committed to the bit, as it were, a little bit more heavily and like brought it to the table, then it would have been at the table. But I did not do that. So it was just sort of like an aspect of. Also, one of the things about Dredge that emerged partially from the way that I laid out core character sheet was that. Co didn't have literally any points in people, at the beginning of the game. I think I had one in rec and then two in engineer, and that was it.
And those were because you were the technician.
Right, yeah. Not because I did that. And so part of that was like, if I'm gonna talk to somebody, it's probably gonna go wrong. So like, I can just say whatever the fuck I want. There's no fucking, there's no risk here. It's gonna go bad. Which led to a kind of guiding principle with Co, where it was like, Dredge was never afraid to get her hands dirty, if it like meant something good would come out of it. So like spending a ton of time on the phone to get the payment for the job, and just saying shit, and antagonizing interrogators and stuff was all because of that.
I kind of went over this already, but like, yeah, I think in terms of character consistency and arc, it like worked out pretty well for Pitchfork. Because it did, because we had Hannah Copeland, we had the Rebel Runts, we had, you know, them come up a lot. We had Jason Basil. I think, yeah, I mean, I think we stuck pretty closely to that. Yeah, find my friends. Have some trouble fighting because of who you are. Sometimes you're just here to fight because you're getting paid. Those kinds of things. I think those came through pretty consistently. And like, I hadn't really had any other ideas for character. Like that was that was it.
Kuma just goes for it. What? Hey. So much good stuff.
I have a question, which is that I think everyone. Actually, no. I'll wait till Cass is on stream, because that'll be more comprehensive. I'll save it.
Okay, well, I guess I should do my expectations as a GM coming into this. Well, as I mentioned, I thought about refusing the magpie. I was definitely thinking about I came into it planning on doing something very frankly, in hindsight, run-of-the-mill. Just, you know, trying to get a feel for the system that I had built and see, like, I had been very lucky in that I had had a number of groups willing to send in audio recordings of their play sessions, including Takuma's group. And so I had heard that the system basically worked. And so I wanted to, you know, get my hands on it and see how I could run it and where I thought things needed to be tweaked. And so that it should probably tend towards the middle, right? Like, I figured that, you know, regardless about what everyone was interested in, it was probably, the campaign was probably going to be like sort of I'm trying to find the right words that are like not cliche, not run-of-the-mill, like practiced, well-worn, maybe. And then y'all came up with the squad idea of being mortuary affairs, with the plan of moving corpses and then stuffing them full of counterfeit script to send back, which y'all never got around to send back to the the surviving family so that they had the money to bury the dead. And it just I'm so glad we did that session 0, because it really just like filed away my expectations, which is frankly a good thing. Like, as I said, it was a good thing that we pushed the system to its limits. I think that the magpie and all of its strangeness really, I don't know if the quirk system would exist without the magpie, because although the quirks were born out of feedback I got from a one-shot I ran at Proto-TO 2018, the specifics of how it would work really came about of trying to imagine, like, how do I mechanically embody the narrative abilities of any kind of mech, from something fairly expected like the Karasu to the like out and out wild magpie. And I'm happy with how the system worked out. It works with the kinds of mechs I was expecting and the kinds of stuff I absolutely was not. So that was sort of my expectations, was, yeah, this will just be like a, we'll just put it into first gear, take it out for a shakedown voyage. And, we definitely shook the system. Any other thoughts?
Takedown maybe a bit of an understatement.
Yeah. Actually, a thought regarding the system and kind of expectations. The one thing that I really like, and this is, I think, as much of a Forge in the Dark thing, but particularly, I think, with how I think a lot of players approach things and how, like, I've come to expect a lot of players to approach things, is I love how resilient this system is against murder hoboing. Like, honestly, like, you could go out and start a bunch of fights, but it would just end very poorly for you. Like, one thing I like is that this system, I think, feels very much about the drama and about the kind of, like, grinding machine of war, where, like, you can only do so much to kind of insulate yourself from the simulation effect of, going into battle. Like, unless you roll nothing but 6s, you will lose resources, you will get ground down, and it will eventually stop you, which I like.
Good. It works as intended. Yeah.
I mean, like, I think coming into sorry, my computer made a weird noise. Coming into this, I had only ever had any experience in Forged in the Dark games by listening to Marielda. Like, that was my only, I don't even think Scum and Villainy Twilight Mirage was out at that point, and Friends at the Table was sort of my touchstone for a lot of this, because Friends at the Table good. I need to finish Counterweight. Yeah, you do. So it was such a tonally different thing, and I think like it was fun, but I had no idea what to expect from a Forged in the Dark game, really, and it was really interesting.
Yeah.
I just remembered. I was playing in a Blades game at the same time, run by Sam Passerins, and that squad was called the Ferry, and our job was to make sure that
Yeah, you told us about this.
the people, when they die in Blades, the spirit wardens come and they collect your body and they dump you in the electroplasm thing so you don't turn into a ghost. Well, our job was to steal those bodies and make sure that they turned into ghosts.
Hell yeah!
So we were still carting around bodies. And I just thought it was really funny that I was playing in two Force of the Dark games where the focus was supposed to be, at least, on carting around dead bodies.
Total consistency.
Undertaker culture.
Just expecting someone to roll up now with an Avi that's just like a Cadillac hearse, but like 50 foot tall.
God.
On that topic, how do y'all feel about the fact that we did like one mission about that, and that was basically it?
It was a cool mission from what I remember.
Like, I think it would have been fun to do more, but we also got so sort of embroiled in other stuff that, like, you know.
I think that for the most part, the Cenotaph as fish out of water tended to be a more compelling premise than the Cenotaph actually doing their goddamn job.
Yeah.
That's one thing I actually really felt like kind of worked lunar narratively was this idea that you have this intentionality of what these characters want to do in this squadron, like, because they're basically looking for the least warlike option in a wartime zone, right? It's like, oh, we're non-combatants, we're doing bodies and stuff, and everything else is just to protect that. But like, it doesn't survive. Like they're called upon. There's pressure coming from everyone, you know, from Scratch, from the Myriad, from all this stuff. Whereas like, you guys are part of this, and you can't escape it, even if you have this wonderful plan on paper to just like, you know, keep your hands clean. It's like, no, you guys are in the fucking muck.
And I also think like having us in this as sort of like this isn't our shtick, this isn't our scene, sort of speaks to like some of the escalation in the war, I think. Like, just like they're taking the fucking mortuary affairs department and just sticking them on the front lines. And like, that's where the war is at.
Yeah, how's the war going? Pretty good, huh?
You know, it's a bad day.
Just has a machine gun now, so.
You know, it's a bad day when you look at the squad who's supposed to have your back, and it's the people who are going to be picking up your corpse after.
I mean, hey, we picked up their corpses. We did do that.
Yeah.
Do that for on the job, yeah.
I had a question. We might have glanced over this briefly, but like, I think what are like moments that you think like really defined or kind of like clarified who your characters are? Because like I definitely found that in play personally, and I think like for me, like I think the real defining moment for Riza was comms broken. Just that kind of ruthlessness, and it's just like. That really sold me on where Riza was, because I was picturing her initially as being like very like, you know, cold and detached, you know, sniper at 1,000 yards, enemy at the gates, very patient thing, and then just like the kind of political intrigue and the way that the game was playing out, kind of favoring to this like no plan survives contact, and she is just the most ruthless member of the group, which I really liked. And also helped that it was fucking badass.
I hate to give the same answer as Takuma, but like the thing with the rebel runs, like that mission we did, where it was just the two of us, was, I think, like, because Tower was faced with a situation where they couldn't be messy. I don't think that had ever occurred to them really before. In a like really impactful way. Like, there were stakes here that, like, yeah, I don't know. I think that was really where I started to understand where I wanted Tower to go. Anyway.
I think for me it was delivering the same session but different mission, delivering the bodies to Fort Jovenel, and getting a non-conclusive results on like trying to see if there was actually a bomb in this body, and then just breaking out the knife and getting in there with gore hands, and being like, yeah, there's a bomb in here, if you could go and get the authorities, please. That was like, okay, yeah, this is who I want this to be. This feels good. And shout outs to Cass, because I had no idea there were bombs in this body. Did not pick up on that at all.
God. That if y'all hadn't spotted those bodies, that would have kicked off an entirely different storyline, which was in the rulebook there is the inciting incident, which is called the Fort Jovenal incident. And so yeah, that would have just I was like, well, I've already got these like this mission line planned out. I might as well use it.
As well.
Yeah.
I actually had a question on a similar vein for you, Austin.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have like the sovereignty engine thing as like part of the base setting from the jump, like, or did that?
Yes and no. Yes, in that it has been in the sovereignty engine has been the goal of the March of Saints, like, since the very start. No, in that nowhere in the rulebook is it defined what it does, which is very intentional. Of course, once you all started putting interest into it, I had to start actually thinking about what the sovereignty engine did.
Suffer.
Yeah, and so there
Did you
was
have any alternate ideas?
Yeah, absolutely. The electromagnetic grabber was not the first one. The first idea I had was like sovereignty, implies like control over an area. So what if it was some kind of like mind control thing? And then I was kind of like, well, that's not as interesting as it could be. Is there like a way to complicate that? Like, how can I more closely tie that into what's already established? Then I was like, what if it's something that just affects people's emotions? And then I was kind of like, well, why would anyone fucking build this thing in the first place? Like, is it just a weapon? And then, so that's how the sovereignty engine eventually came about. Was like, I try to think about what purpose does everything serve within its proper context. And so the sovereignty engine was built with the goal of removing the debris cloud from the planet. Right? That is why it exists, was for that purpose. But, good intentions pave the road to rods from God. So.
Yeah, that's how that saying goes. Absolutely.
Also,
Y'all just swap places.
Yeah,
I think.
I'm gonna fix it.
okay.
I disconnected for whatever reason.
She's not dead.
Just
Not dead. I was very adamant about not dying, actually.
Only mostly dead.
With
Yeah.
all dead, there's only one thing you can do: go through their pockets and look for loose change.
That's just the whole thing. That's just our squad.
So actually, I have a question that's kind of, I think, broadly for everyone here. What was, I think, kind of like the experience and the, like, expectation and decision-making process around bringing in a new player? Because I listened to it on the podcast, so I haven't gotten to Demon's Departure yet. And I'm also missing all the behind-the-scenes context. And so it's just a question of, like, because in my experience, when we lose a player, generally speaking, that kind of kills the game. And so, like, I'm just kind of wondering what that process was like for you guys. And, like, what happened before I got here?
Well,
That last mission.
for me as a GM, I have never, I don't think, run a campaign, well, outside of You Don't Meet in an Inn, which are very like contained arcs for the most part. I have never run a campaign where I had a consistent player group. Not once in my goddamn life, because people, sometimes people just can't make sessions, and frankly, for a lot of my life, I've never had an extremely dedicated group of players. So, people, they weren't thinking about the game away from the table, right? Like, there's sort of, there's kind of like three player types in my experience. There are those who think about the game away from the table a lot. There are those who only think about the game when they are at the table. And then there are those who are in between, but their thoughts about their thoughts away from the table tend to be very immediate. For anyone who listened to the balance arc of the Adventure Zone, I think that Clint, Justin, and Travis embody each of them embodies a different one of those. Travis is the one who thinks about it away from the table. Clint is the one who thinks about it at the table, and then Justin is the one who sort of oscillates between the two, at least during balance. I think that changes later on, but at any rate, so I have a lot of experience dealing with absent players and players who stop showing up. There, in the Fantasycraft game that I ran years ago, there was one player who showed up for the first 2 sessions and then just stopped showing up.
Mm-hmm.
And the campaign continued for another year and a half. So it just meant that the party didn't have a mage for that year and a half until one of the players' characters died, and then she made a new character that was a mage. So yeah, Cass did not do that to us. Cass gave us a lot of heads up. She had a work thing that was going to disrupt her schedule, and so we worked with that, and she gave us a clear sort of deadline of when she needed to be out. And if I recall correctly, she pushed that a little bit because we had trouble getting that last mission done, because it went a little longer. I think that was our first 3-session mission, if I am recalling correctly.
For us.
Yeah, so that's sort of where my thoughts on how Cass's leaving happened. Does anyone have any other thoughts about Cass's leaving?
It was a bummer. I think the way that Cass exited was really good. She kept it in the fiction in a really affecting way. And I didn't to answer Jess's question, is I wasn't super part of the deciding who would replace her on the stream, who would fill that slot. I'm really pleased with the choice that Austin made. I think you've been absolutely fantastic. But it was just oh, okay. this is the person who's on stream now.
Yeah. For selecting the new person, I put out the call for applications, and yours were one of them, Jess. And you were my first pick, and then we had that whole email kerfuffle, and then you were available when my second choice couldn't do it, unfortunately. So I am glad that you were able to join. And in hindsight, yeah, Sasha, you make a good, you're not, I don't think that you're dragging me, intentionally, but also, yeah, I could have done better in consulting with the three of you about, who was going to replace Cass. Not that Cass can be replaced, but you all know what I mean. Or, for that matter, even if we wanted a fourth player again.
Honestly, I didn't envy you that choice at all. Trying to put together a group to begin with is hard, and then trying to mentally figure out what how the social dynamic is going to change is ugh. That's a whole fucking social arithmetic that gives me hives to think about. So you're good.
I like to think I played into that in a good way. And honestly, it's the weird thing how much I love how much of a fucking pariah Scarecrow was in the group. I just think it was a good that I could keep that separation. I think was really important and necessary for this character to work. I think if I had a lot of bleed, I'd be okay, everyone's just bullying me. I'm not coming back. This is bullshit. But it ended up it was so much fun. You guys know how excited I get when y'all bully me with beliefs. It's nuts. It's just good shit.
They're so good.
Yeah.
For me, I when we finished the first part, we took a break. Coming back was rough. I'm not a huge fan of longer campaigns. I think 4 to 6 months is my sweet spot. So this went way over.
Thank you for sticking it out.
I really enjoyed this game, though. It's just that, yeah, dealing with that length was new for me and weird. And I was we could have just been done there. I would have been fine if we had just been done there. But then we came back with a new person. And I was and also because I think it was rough, especially for me, because a lot of the interaction that Pitchfork had inside the squad had been with Demon. So especially a lot of the character stuff, two-person scenes, I was really leaning on that relationship between the two of them. So that made it harder for me in particular.
Yeah, figuring out what the squad looked like and what Dredge's place in the squad looked like after Demon was gone was, I mean, it was hard, but it was also extremely tasty. So I don't know that I can complain about it really.
Yeah, I did like that, and I kind of wish we got a little bit more of that, Sasha. But remember that whole thing where it's Riza's kind of naturally gravitating towards leadership thing, and the kind of and I did get that vibe from the squad where it's this whole it's a little bit directionless without Demon. So that's a tension that I thought was really fun to play with, and I kind of wish we leaned into that a little bit more. But I'm also still really happy with how things turned out.
God, yeah, the moment when I realized that Dredge was basically going to be the CO because Demon just walked away was so good, because it was just one day, Ko realizes that there's no eggs in the fridge and someone needs to get them, and Why not me?
Why am I the adult now?
Yeah.
When did that happen?
I'm sorry.
I'm the one gathering up the eggs every morning. Are you kidding me?
I want to make breakfast for you.
I'm sorry.
Bad
I'm sorry.
example.
I need to call out this fucking comment from Hadrian. Pitchfork's bad dad went to the store to get cigarettes. Oh, fucking.
Contempt.
Oh.
Yeah. God.
And like, also,
No,
I
it
just like
wouldn't
in
be-
general, like, I didn't really have. I don't think I really appreciate the gravity of the concept of the Cenotaph as a squad. Because I was looking at that, it's like, okay, cool, they do things, but like, it's still Beam Saber. It's still like this, like, mecha squadron faction combat game. Like, it's still like really military, right? So I come in with, you know, this military sniper, and it's like, wow, you guys really are like trying not to be this thing. And there was like this real friction between the concepts, which it worked. Also, Austin, honest question. How much of it had to do with you're not fucking redoing those layouts?
Which
To bring, in
layout?
to bring a new fourth player in.
Oh.
I mean, there are
I'm
plenty. There's a couple different versions with people, right? Like that would have been an easy fix.
Are there? I don't know. I've only ever seen the 4s, so.
Sorry,
I've
do you mean
used a 5-player one before because of an ill-advised one-shot.
Oh, the stream overlays you mean?
Yeah.
Oh,
that was. I'm basically shitposting Austin.
oh. Yeah.
What is this ill-advised one shot?
It was good. It was technically messy. It was fine.
Oh no! Oh no! The layouts.
That's what you call a critique sandwich. Is what Takuma just gave us.
Just subconsciously, just automatically. I got it.
Now I am just like curious, but it sounds like this is not the place for that.
It's on YouTube, so you could go look for it.
Wow.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Damn.
But yes, as alluded to in chat, Hadrian, who I commissioned for the stream layouts and all of the Beam Saber stream screen type stuff, did an amazing job and did versions with different numbers of players. So I would have been safe for that. Also, I have paint.net. I can make changes.
What's the most players you think Beam Saber could support?
Austin flexing his fucking graphic design skills. Hell yeah.
Look, the number of times that I've had to change y'all's pronouns,
Yeah. What did you expect? Like,
not for Beam Saber to be the trans game of 2018.
you know, your vision was just not bold enough.
Clearly.
You just, how could you not see?
It gets to the table and it's like, okay, but what if it was extremely trans? What
Yeah.
if this game was
Yeah,
as
we
transgender?
brought on this new cis dude. This should bring it back down. No, fucking no.
I switched pronouns for one session, and then I switched back.
Mechs are representative of bodies, and
Exactly.
look, we've got someone who took a transforming mech in the second season and then transformed herself.
Hey, I transitioned before I got the transforming.
You're right, absolutely.
Although I will confess my deep and dirty crime. Part of this, because I had cracked my egg. I was aware when I came on. And part of it was like, oh, I'll play a girl. I'll practice my girl voice, and it'll totally be like a sneaky thing that like a cis dude would get away with. No.
Yeah, it is pretty it's nuts. Speaking all the fact that I was like, I'll see if this group is cool with neopronouns for my character. Let's test those waters
For your
first.
character. Of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't blame anyone here for hedging their bets. You know, there's no way to know what any of us were going to be like, or, you know, what any of us, how we were all going to get along. You know, the closest idea that I had was, you know, from listening to Takuma GM Beam Saber for, you know, however many months it was before before I started GMing it. So
Like, the closest I knew to any of y'all was I was in a game that Bren GM'd, and like Bren is friends with Takuma, but that was like my only like point of contact.
Yeah.
I was in that Uncharted Worlds game. Like,
Oh yeah, and I just want to give a shout out to Steve Sirota on the Discord, because like he was just like, hey, you'd like this, like we were talking about like random shit like ages ago, and just like, hey, you'd probably like this Beam Saber game. I'm like, oh, mech RPGs, I love this shit. Let's go. And here I am. So like, thank God for coincidences, I guess. I'm really happy I took that leap.
yeah, I was 100% wondering when or how you found out about you know the game, because as far as I knew, you weren't like in the Discord, you weren't like in my mentions, you weren't on my Patreon or anything of that sort. Like you just jumped in full feet with the application.
I was on the Discord. I'm pretty sure that's how I saw it. Like you did like a big @ here, everyone. I think for that.
Ah, and we have Cassandra with us now.
I guess.
hi!
So I am.
Hi.
There she be!
There she is.
I'm going to just set this up.
Hello,
Bitch.
everybody.
Hello.
Hi, it's so nice to finally meet. I've heard so much.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you, Jess.
All of
So-
this together.
I could ask my question, which is directly correlated with what we've already been talking about. What
Hey.
about this stream or this game made you be like, actually, here's the place where I'm gonna be trans. Here's the place where I'm gonna try this out, or like commit to this.
I
or
feel fucking cold out here.
What's
Excuse me.
what's the like all of us changed pronouns at least once during the stream, and I don't think that's like a common thing on stream. I don't
Look, I played a real boy, okay?
That was actually.
Oh gosh, yeah. No, I was thinking the same thing because I remember. I remember because then Takuma came out and then Jess came out and I was just like, oh wow. I was like, this is sure a game, isn't it? I thought it was fantastic. I don't think I was out yet when I left.
No, you were not.
I don't. Yeah, even to me. So, that was a day.
I just realized something. I just realized Tower was my first ever non-binary character that I played. Like, I just remembered that. Like, I think I had, like, completely forgotten about that. But I think, like, I may have, like, done some one-off, like, character creation stuff, but I had never actually played a non-binary character until Tower. I just remembered that. I don't know.
Fred.
It's a little weird kind of thing.
Aww.
I think for me it was just like how fucking overwhelmingly queer this environment was, because I think like I came out like generally on Twitter like I think like January 21st or something is right after the H bomb stream, and like I was like caught up on all that good energy, but I think I was out here for like least a couple weeks before that. I'm not entirely sure. Timeline's a little scrambled, and I got holes in my brain. It's just a thing that happens. It's trauma, whatever.
Sorry to interrupt briefly. Cassandra, are you recording?
I am, yes.
Okay, good. I just wanted to double check.
I did have to emergency click before I started talking. I was like, oh wait, Audacity.
Yeah. And like that was the thing. Like because I talked about the game with a lot of my friends about it because like it was fun. It was like I used to play a lot of tabletop games with my regular groups, and they've kind of all like their jobs have gotten busy, or some of them got married and stuff, and like it's been busy, and we haven't had as much time. So like this is kind of, I think, like actually the first game I've been playing in a while. So like with some friends who are important to me, I was talking about a lot. I'm just like, yeah, this space is so fucking queer. Like got a whole bunch of non-binary people, and that. And it's just like, God, I think I actually want to come out here. And also, it's really funny to me, and retroactively bad pronouns. And I'm so sorry for this, but like, because I'm like, I remember this moment. I'm like on Twitter, and all this is like, wait, who's Cass? I thought Demon was played by a dude. And so, like, I came on closeted trans woman to replace a closeted trans woman.
Yeah.
And it just tickles me.
Yeah, I think my, like, RP moment was in a game I played before that sometime earlier, and I think I had some feelings then. But I did what any responsible person should do, and I took those feelings and I put them in a box, and I hid that box deep in the ground. Yeah. So I think on some levels, like I've thought about like Harrow and my, I describe him kind of as like a toxic dad, and I think. I don't know. I think there were a lot of personal judgments wrapped up in that somehow, for that reason. And so I do think, even though I was playing a guy and I was still seeing myself as the guy, I do think there were certainly like less good elements in that character, if that makes sense.
I could so long and farewell to it, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
One last hurrah.
I'm like, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Takuma. I was going to change the subject because I thought everyone had said their piece on this.
I've been trying to remember things, and I just can't.
Oh.
I can't remember if I went through 2 pronoun changes or what, or...
I'm pretty sure it was 2.
2. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was 3.
I think it was. I think you're the one who did 3, Ray.
3? Well,
World record!
no, I didn't do 3. I did a change and then a change back.
Yeah.
That's not 3.
I do have one last thing I want to share real fast, and this isn't specifically related to this campaign, but kind of just gender shit in general, and like the intersection of that and RP. Because here's the thing, I've played D&D since college, so I've been playing like tabletop games for over a decade, and it used to just be something fun for me. It's like, okay, cool, we'll get my roommate, we'll get some other college friends together, we'll sit there and we'll drink, we'll eat chips, and we'll play D&D, and it's just this fun bullshit thing we do. Until 2016. And in 2016, I was introduced to Apocalypse Engine. Actually, a little bit before that. But one of the things I did, and I do still do a bit of this even for like this character and stuff, is I started building characters reactively. I was just like, okay, cool. Like, what? Everyone else do your characters first, all right? Okay. What are the playbooks or classes? What are we missing? What can I do to fill? Like, what niches aren't I filling? And also just like, what's the gender spread? Okay, 3 dudes, 2 girls. Yeah, I'll play a girl first time. That year, I played 3 characters: Samantha, Melissa, and Hideko. 3 raven-haired girls with identity issues. Egg. And that's when, like, I really went from like D&D being like this fun like thing that I do to like my favorite fucking thing ever, with these really involved and like important stories to me. And so it's just like,
why.
yeah, me too. Turns out I'm an idiot.
It's the queer experience.
I posted about this on Twitter already, but NNs has been like my like informal pronouns with like people that I love. Like, hey, if you call me by these, you're gonna make me feel extremely loved and special and nice. It feels extremely weird having them on stream. The point at which I was like, I like made the jump is like, oh fuck it, let's do it. It was actually Jess was like, we almost have a full spread of like gender identities on this thing, and I was like, hey, let me fill that niche. But yeah, I like that it speaks to how comfortable and how happy and how much I love this group, that I was like, hey, you should use NNs. And
It is so wholesome.
Yeah,
For everyone.
the fact that I play a character who uses she her on Fridays means that I basically would ride or die for Austin.
Yeah, thank you so much. I was not expecting V to use she her pronouns. So
Yeah.
especially not with that initial concept sketch. For anyone who doesn't watch the Friday streams, which you should because they are very good, Sasha's character, Madam V, is a tree person who has a bifurcated torso and 2 heads.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Nice.
Oh my god. Okay, Austin, I found my application form.
yeah.
Pronouns he, him.
Yep, I knew that.
So I definitely had two changes. I like had thought about taking hormones like since January of last year, so like I think being able to part of I think playing Keiko, who was a Japanese woman in her early 20s, was that I wanted to, like, because it was, I mean, originally I thought that because it was a show, I wanted to like have this be as close to who I am as I could be, while also playing out this like Johnny Ryden storyline. And I think that really helped being able to like process that through this game. Not the first Japanese like woman in her 20s that I've played in campaigns, but I played some swashbucklers, y'all. It was a good time. But yeah, I mean this, and then non-binary TTRPG month where I also played Beam Saber. That was extremely good for my gender feelings. Sasha was also in that 3-shot.
It was. That was a really good time. I was really delighted to be able to play Tucer.
Oh yeah, I guess that's side story content. You want side story Cenotaph content? Go look up Beam Saber the Ivy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, it's been a good place here. I feel like there must have been something that happened though, and we were all like, "Huh, me, you, me."
Yeah.
I remember though.
Say that. Hey, say that.
It's not the one I was wearing when I joined the stream.
Oh god. Oh, you went to the same hat store. We went to the same hat store. Oh, you got the same gender. Oh my god.
One of us is gonna have to change.
Yeah, I mean that worked out.
God. I think on that note, we should take a break, a quick one, and then
Just get out here.
I know there'll be a second half. We'll have more after the break, but you know
We'll get outta here.
it's 7:30, so let's take the break, and everyone, we will be back in about 5 minutes.